She sold her house for her son. Then he disappeared at the airport. What would you do if your own son asked you to sell your home and move across the world with him? Would you trust him? Margaret did. But just 1 hour after arriving at the airport, she was sitting alone. Her son was gone, and she had no home to return to. My name is Margaret Wilson. I am 59 years old, and for 8 years, I lived alone in a small house in Brighton. My husband had died, and my only son, Michael, had moved to Canada. Michael had a beautiful home, a good job, a wife, and 2 children. He had built a wonderful life for himself. But I was not part of it. I spent my days alone. Every morning, I cleaned my house and cooked for myself. Every evening, I sat by the window, looking at old pictures of my son. Sometimes, Michael called me. Sometimes, he sent me money. And sometimes, he said the same thing. "Mother, I promise I'll come and see you soon." But he never came. Still, I waited. Because no matter how far a child goes, a mother's heart always waits for them to come home. Then, one ordinary morning, everything changed. Someone knocked on my door. I opened it, and I froze. Standing in front of me was the person I had been waiting years to see. Michael. He smiled. "Hello, Mother." I couldn't believe it. My son had finally come home. I hugged him so tightly that tears filled my eyes. That evening, we sat together and talked. I asked about his wife. I asked about my grandchildren. I wanted to hear everything. But there was one question I couldn't stop thinking about. Why had Michael suddenly come back after all these years? Finally, I asked him, "Michael, why are you here?" He looked at me, and his answer made my heart fill with hope. "I missed you, Mother." I smiled. Then he said something I never expected. "I want you to come to Canada and live with us." My heart began to race. "Really?" "Yes," he said. "You shouldn't live alone anymore. You can live with us. You can see your grandchildren every day." For the first time in years, I imagined a different life. I imagined waking up surrounded by family. I imagined hearing my grandchildren laughing. I imagined sitting at the dinner table with my son. But there was one problem. My house. I looked around at the walls that held decades of memories. I was born there. I had married my husband there. I had raised Michael there. It wasn't just a house. It was my entire life. "I don't think I can leave," I told him. Michael took my hand. "Mother, this house is old. It's not safe for you anymore." Then he said the words that changed everything. "Sell it." I looked at my son. Could I really trust him? He was my only child, the person I had loved my entire life. So I made a decision. I sold my house. I gave the money to Michael. And I packed one small suitcase. I was leaving everything behind. But I wasn't afraid, because I thought I was going somewhere better. I thought I was going home. To my son. At the airport, I held my ticket tightly. I was nervous. I was sad. But deep inside, I was happy. Finally, I wouldn't be alone anymore. Then Michael suddenly stopped walking. "Mother, wait here." I looked at him. "Why?" "The airport is too big. You can't walk all the way to the gate." He pointed to a chair. "I'll get you a wheelchair." I smiled. "Okay." 5 minutes, he promised. Then he walked away. 5 minutes passed. I waited. 10 minutes. Still nothing. I looked around. Where was Michael? 20 minutes passed. Then 30. My smile disappeared. I stood up and searched the crowd. Families were walking past me. Children were laughing. People were rushing toward their gates. But Michael was nowhere. 45 minutes passed. I sat down again. Maybe he was having trouble finding a wheelchair. Maybe there was a long line. I tried to stay calm. Then 1 hour passed. And suddenly, a police officer walked toward me. "Ma'am, are you waiting for someone?" I looked up. Yes, my son. Where is he? He went to get a wheelchair for me. The officer looked at me carefully. Do you have a picture of him? I took Michael's photo from my bag. The officer studied it. Then he asked to see my ticket. Please stay here, he said. I'll be back. He walked away. And I waited. Again. But this time, something felt different. I didn't know it yet. But my life was about to change forever. After several minutes, the officer returned. His face was pale. He sat down beside me. Ma'am, I'm very sorry. My heart began to beat faster. What happened? The officer took a deep breath. Your son has already boarded the plane. I stared at him. No, he has left the airport. No, that's impossible. I stood up. My son wouldn't leave me. The officer looked into my eyes. Ma'am, he boarded the plane alone. My whole body went cold. Alone? Without me? I had sold my home for him. I had given him everything. And now, he had left me with nothing. I looked at my suitcase. I looked at my ticket. And I finally understood. Michael had abandoned me. Right there. At the airport. I began to cry. Then the police officer said something I never expected. Margaret, you remind me of my mother. I looked at him through my tears. My mother died 5 years ago, he said. When I saw you sitting here alone, I thought about her. Then he held out his hand. Come with me. I shook my head. I can't trouble you. He smiled. You are not a trouble. Then he said, you are a blessing. That night, I went home with a stranger. His name was David. His wife, Helen, welcomed me into their home. She prepared dinner. She gave me a warm bed. And she treated me like family. But even though they were kind to me, I couldn't stop thinking about Michael. Why had he abandoned me? How could my own son do this? And then, the next morning, David received a phone call. He walked into another room. His voice was quiet. When he came back, I asked him, David, is everything okay? He smiled. Yes, Margaret. Everything is fine. But I knew something was wrong. I could see it in his eyes. And what I didn't know was that David was hiding a terrible secret. A secret that would change everything. The plane Michael had boarded had crashed. There were no survivors. Michael was dead. The son who had abandoned his mother was gone forever. But David didn't tell me. Not yet. Because he knew something important. No matter what Michael had done, I was still his mother. And I still loved him. Days passed. Then weeks. David and Helen continued to care for me. David took me to the doctor. He bought my medicine. He helped me whenever I needed him. And Helen treated me like the mother she never had. Slowly, I realized something. I had lost the family I thought I could trust. But I had found a family I never expected. One day, David asked me, Margaret, do you ever wish you could go back to your old house? I smiled. No. He looked surprised. I looked around his home. Yes, I lost my house. I paused. But I found something better. David looked at me. I smiled. I found a new home. Sometimes, The person you trust the most can break your heart. And sometimes, a complete stranger can become the family you always needed. Margaret lost her house. She lost her son. She lost the life she once knew. But in the darkest moment of her life, she discovered something beautiful. Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes, family is the person who sees you alone and chooses not to walk away. So, if you were Margaret, would you forgive Michael? Would you accept David and Helen as your new family? And most importantly, do you believe that a stranger's kindness can change someone's entire life? Tell me your answer in the comments. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional stories.